let's focus on this story now. A number of intra-African migrants is said to be at an all-time high. The African Union says 80% leave for countries inside the continent. Only 20% take the dangerous ocean route to Europe or the perilous track to the Gulf states in the Middle East. It is for this reason that the African Migration Observatory has now been established. It hopes to provide data to African Union member states to enable them to develop coherent migration policies. Now, the observatory began its work officially last month, in February. Let's discuss this now with the AU's Head of Migration and Social Affairs, Sabelo Mbokazi. Good morning, Mr. Mbokazi. Thank you very much for your time, for talking to us all the way from your head office there in Addis in Ethiopia. Just overall, first up, why did the AU feel it was important now to set up this migration observatory in Morocco?
Oh, thank you very much, Dan, and also your distinguished team from eNCA. Thank you very much for affording this opportunity to African Union to be able to talk about the African Migration Observatory. Yes, I think if we have been observing, the policy debates have pointed us to the direction that migration is on the rise. Both migration, which is regular and irregular, but migration is on the rise, and it's been a topical debate around the globe, but also in Africa. But thanks for your intro, because it picks and very good statistics about migration in Africa. Yes, intra-Africa is higher at 80%, and 20% is external migration. And I think we always have to highlight this as we develop the policy of migration.
So what are going to be the main objectives of the observatory?
The main objective of the observatory is actually going to be a data center. It's going to provide a continent with centralized and unified source of data on migration, specifically on migration. In other words, going to work with 55 member countries of the African Union to collect data on migration, and that data is going to be used now to inform the policy propositions and policy development in Africa.
Now, I understand from what I've read in terms of your observatory that you're going to need to set up a new center in Bamako, in Mali, that will assist with the research and studies and collecting this data. When will that center be set up in Bamako?
Correct. As I've indicated, migration has increased, and the African Union, in response to the increased migratory phenomenon in Africa, is developing and is establishing 3 migration centers. Yes, in Bamako, African Union is developing and establishing the African Center for the Study on and Research on Migration. This has already been adopted by the heads of state, and what we are doing now, we are working on operationalization of the center in Bamako. As we speak now, before the end of this month, we are going to launch the center between the 21st and 25th of March. It will be launched in Bamako towards operationalization. But you may also wish to know, then, that we are also establishing another operational center in Khartoum. That center will focus on human trafficking. So all these centers have been given a distinct focus, but all of them are migration centers that are being established.
Some people hearing you this morning might say it's about time that Africa has its own migration observatory and its own research, study and data collecting center, because much of the existing knowledge and information and research about migration is coming from Europe, from European Union particularly, and their support for Africa's migration efforts has been pretty much skewed.
Yes, your observation is correct. It is for that reason that the African Union is establishing these centers. All these centers will be focusing on conducting research and collecting statistics, collecting data about migration, and there's 3 of them. That shows that Africa is putting more focus on dealing decisively, but also effectively with the issue on migration and developing policies. All these centers that are spread across the continent will be focusing on migration. It's just that they will be focusing on various thematic areas. As I've indicated, the Khartoum Center will focus on human trafficking and trafficking of persons, while the Bamako will conduct research and studies to develop policy positions and also to build capacity among member states on policy development for migration. So the African Union has prioritized this issue, as you can see, the establishment of these 3 centers across the continent.
Sabelo Mbokazi, the African Union's head of migration and social affairs, thank you very much for talking to us this morning live from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the head office there, about this very important issue of African countries themselves now saying we need to understand more about what's happening in terms of African migration. 80% of such migration happens within the continent, intra-African, people crossing to different countries, and only 20% is across the Mediterranean into Europe.